Hey, definitely action. Thank y'all so much for being with us. Really quick, just to get us started, just say, actually, get started. This is my son, Philip Hood, Phillip I'm Reverend Dr. Jeff Hood, REVDRJEFFHOOD.
I'm Catherine Barlow Williams, KATHERBarlow
Um, I'm Andy Brower, ANDI, and my last name is Brower, BRAUER.
I'm Mahira Jawani, MAHIRAJIWANI.
So, and we've got a mixture of folks here, but I work as well, have the pleasure to serve as Stephen Nelson's spiritual advisor. I've been working with him for a number of months now, and Catherine is the pastor here at Central Presbyterian. And what I think we're going to do, what I was hoping we could do, is maybe you could introduce the church and where you all are at that point, and then we can move. Is that okay?
All right. We are Central Presbyterian Church located in downtown Austin. We are deliberately diverse, or seek to be deliberately diverse and fully inclusive, standing up and expressing our faith in a way that brings equality and celebrates the diversity of humanity. One of our greatest concerns in knowing about the death penalty and how often it happens, executions happen in our state, what it is costing our souls, and what is also costing the taxpayers dollars. It costs more than 3 times to execute an inmate than to imprison them for life. So if we can't appeal to your moral base, or you don't understand our faith tradition the way we do, that God, we are called to forgive, that's what Jesus said even when he was hanging on a cross. He didn't ask God for retribution or revenge. He asked God only to forgive them, for they know not what they do. So we ask for mercy, compassion, and yes, we need to have some sort of system that is truly a correctional system and not just punishment and retribution and revenge. So do not avenge the death of the victim of Stephen Nelson on the behalf of all pastors, because by far, I think the vast majority of us do not support the death penalty. While I feel for his victim's family and all those who love this person, this pastor, I just pray and hope that we can change our culture, because as Martin Luther King said, we can't drive out hate with hate.
That's right.
Only love can do that. And now is a time in our country, especially, when we need more love and less hate.
Well, that's the press conference right there. She said it all. I wanted to thank everybody for coming out. Wanted to thank different news stations we have. Also thank everybody who's joining us online from around the world. I want to very clearly start by saying, we have this banner behind us, who would Jesus execute? For so long, people have asked, what would Jesus do? People wore the bracelets. People have, asked that question over and over again. And one of the main questions of our faith is, what would Jesus do? We are to live and love and exist in the path of Jesus. Who would Jesus execute? If you can't imagine Jesus as the executioner, then I don't see how any follower of Jesus could support the death penalty. I'll back up for a second and tell you a little bit about Stephen. Stephen grew up in a home of horror. He was regularly beaten. He was regularly sexually molested. He grew up in and out of juvenile detention facilities. He saw psychiatrists and psychologists so much when he was as a young person that there is a long record of difficulty and struggle, mental health issues, psychological issues. So much so that at his sentencing phase of his trial, a psychologist that saw him when he was 12 years old came forward and revealed her report from when he was 12 years old. And at 12 years old, this psychologist said that Steven Nelson was irreparably broken. This is someone that we need to be very clear about this, that our society failed. I'll stop right there for a second and simply say that a lot of the times when we approach this point of execution, the question is always, what did they do? Far too little do we ask, what did we do? How did we fail? There's no question that we failed Steven Nelson. Steven went on with his life. He got into all sorts of crime and whatnot outside of Dallas, in and around the Metroplex up there. Got into robbing and stealing and these such things. He didn't know a whole lot of other ways to exist. And the reason is because he kept being shown avenues that he couldn't take. Steven actually went to college and was kicked out based on his criminal record in his past. He was trying to do better, trying to make a way out of no way, and we kicked him out, kicked him down again. The crime itself is horrific. I am not someone that is like a lot of death penalty activists that's going to come out here and tell you that a lot of these folks are angels and they're all innocent and we deserve to, just open the doors and let everybody run out. Steven was a part of an incredibly evil act. A lot of people are scared to use that word evil. What happened was evil. Steven's recounting of the facts is that he was a part of a group, him and two other people, that went in to rob North Point Baptist Church in Arlington. And Steven was supposed to be the lookout. The crime ultimately led to the horrific murder of Clint Dobson. Clint was, a bag was placed over his head and he was suffocated to death. This is a young pastor. Catherine knows, I know, a lot of pastors know what it looks like to be a young pastor, 26, 27, 28 years old, just starting out, trying to figure out things, trying to figure out how you are supposed to be, how you're supposed to exist. Judy Elliott was another victim. She was the secretary at the church, and she was beaten so horribly that her husband came in to check on them and found her and couldn't recognize her. It was horrific. Steven's DNA was inside of the church. There were footprints of his inside the church. His story is that he went in to rob the church, stole a laptop, stole keys, stole a car, some money. Maybe I'm overstating, but some of those succession of things, and left. The state says that Steven Nelson did all of this himself. I find that a little difficult to believe based on how much was done. But I think for us gathered here, this is a moral question. It's a question of who would Jesus execute? So again, I think it's important that we state that there's different accounts of what happened. Steven went on he was caught spending money, driving the car, using all of these different things. The church was a plant of First Baptist Arlington, and of course, both congregations responded in horror. The pastor of First Baptist Arlington led the way. He's still the pastor of First Baptist Arlington. And in leading the way, the church begins to call for the death penalty. says that there needs to be justice. Unfortunately, Christian theology is often such that we believe that there's got to be blood when something bad happens. I reject that. I certainly reject that with regards to the death penalty. So Stephen ultimately goes to trial. The other people that were tangentially connected to the case were never found to have, or found by the state to have participated in the crime. Stephen has a wild record in the Tarrant County Jail. I mean, fights with guards. He was accused of a murder in the Tarrant County Jail. And the medical examiner later ruled that murder a suicide. Yeah, suicide. But again, I want to very clearly state, this is not a situation where we're able to say this person is innocent and all of these types of things. But we are here to say that this person matters. This person is made in the image of God and they matter. We've seen this Robbie Robertson moment, and I'll speak to that a little bit in a second. But people keep on running out on these cases, especially of late, and we're only hearing about innocence. I think we want to talk about morality. Do we want to teach our children to kill people by continuing to kill people? Who would Jesus execute? When when the trial happened and the sentencing phase happened, First Baptist Arlington and their pastor released a statement that said that this was, after the death penalty was brought down, that this was God's will. This is what they had prayed for. They were excited and ecstatic as a congregation to be reaching this moment. In true evangelical fashion, they said that they were going to go and see Stephen. They were going to minister to him. They were going to pray for his salvation. We're 13 years later, and Stephen has never talked to any of these people. It's important to practice what you preach. And that's what we're here today doing. We're trying to practice what we preach. We say that God loves people. We say that we're supposed to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And we're here today clearly saying that you can't love your neighbor and kill him at the same time. We're told we're supposed to love our enemies, not kill our enemies. We are told that what you have done to the least of these, you have done to me. Jesus says, what you've done to the least of these, you have done to me. Jesus said, I was in prison and either you visited me or you didn't. That rings quite true when you got a church talking about visiting somebody and they didn't. I work all over the country with guys who are approaching execution. If Stephen is executed, he will be the 9th person that I've been with in the execution chamber. And I can tell you that what we are doing to our correctional officers, what we are doing to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice is absolutely horrific. Just yesterday, I had a meeting with TDCJ in preparation for the execution. Every person that was in the room said, we hate this. But yet we got Governor Abbott and Attorney General Paxton and all of these people saying, we want to execute people. We want justice. We want law and order. And I say that if you want to call for law and order and if you want to call for people to be executed, then do it yourself. Quit expecting other people to do it. Quit dragging down our society. I think if Governor Abbott and Attorney General Paxton had to practice what they preach, had to live out their faith, I don't think we would have any executions. If they had to do the killing, I don't think we would have any executions. Stephen, we visited yesterday morning. We talk every day. I've worked very hard with his wife, Noah, to get his story out there. But since we're here in Austin and y'all experience a lot of these cases, I think it's very important to, at this moment, speak to the fact that the cases that are getting attention are not cases like this. We're seeing it over and over, that the cases that are getting attention, when the money rolls in and when the outside national press rolls in, it's not cases like this. I think that we need to mind our hearts. We need to think about what we are doing to our society. We need to think about what we're doing to ourselves. We need to think about what we're doing to our correctional officers. And I believe our churches need to ask, who would Jesus execute? Lastly, I'll say that we have over 11,000 signatures, 11,000 people who don't want this to happen. This is a case that hadn't gotten a tremendous amount of the national sort of media coverage, and yet 11,000 people don't want this to happen. Catherine, I'm so thankful for your friendship. I'm thankful for the witness of Central Presbyterian. And I'm thankful that in the midst of such horror, that there can be a little bit of light. Just a little bit of light. TDCJ has approved me to touch Stephen's head and pray with him as he's executed. Obviously, I hope I don't have to do that. But I will tell him that I love him. Because I do. It doesn't mean he's innocent. It doesn't mean he needs to be out running around Austin. But it does mean that love can go through bars and it can go into strange places. And love finds us in all sorts of ways. But I know as I touch his head and pray with him and pray for him, I know that the people of Texas will come to mind. And a firm hope. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, but a firm hope that this will be the last execution that ever takes place in Texas. The last. We'll take a couple of questions. I appreciate y'all letting me get through the whole trajectory. Yes, sir.
You spoke about Mr. Nelson and that he has value. What value does he have to move forward? What can he offer, in your opinion, if his sentence is commuted?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I think that we're all made in the image of God. We all have value. From birth, from this moment in which we have breath, we all have value. Stephen is a tremendous artist. Stephen is a tremendous friend to me. And so if I'm speaking from a very...
I think you're misunderstanding.
Yeah.
There are consequences for one's actions
Sure.
in this world right now.
Sure.
If his sentence is commuted, what do you see him doing? Do you want him to be released? Do you want him to stay?
Okay, I got you. I didn't
stay
understand.
locked up? You know, and if he stays locked up, what would he do?
So what we're seeing is some of these guys are locked. I mean, some of these guys are on death row and practically receive a life sentence because they're down there for 35, 40 years. I mean, I'm not asking for him to be released. I don't think that that's appropriate in this circumstance. I think that probably what is appropriate is that he should get a life sentence and spend most of the rest of his life behind bars. But at the same time, I think in terms of what will he do, I think that he has tremendous value and can have tremendous value to all the people that he's around. A lot of these guys that he's around, a lot of these guys that he has relationships with, and he has those relationships now. I think the bottom line is I don't think this is necessary. And I think that ultimately, if the question is more about him, I think that we're missing it. And I'll tell you why. I think that the death penalty is a moment for us to step back and be better people as individuals. And I think when we continue to kill these guys, we're not accepting that possibility. So, it's hard to say. I'm not, necessarily a fortune teller. Yeah, go ahead.
I once served as a chaplain at a maximum security prison for men in Trenton, New Jersey. And I can tell you, their lives are no picnic. And I remember very specifically one Sunday in the worship service there was a man who had been taken off death row. And the joy of that faith community in the prison was extraordinary. And as a young pastor, I remember thinking, why are y'all so happy? He's still going to be in jail in this horrible prison for the rest of his life. Yet there was joy, and they were grateful he was going to be alive. And the reason there was joy is because they were in relationship with one another. I agree with Jeff. I'm not saying that all these people should be released, but we have massive problems with our correctional systems that are not correctional at all. And so I think the answer, the question of, well, what will he do and what value will he bring? We don't know, but we do know that people, as hard as it is for us to comprehend it, to understand it in any way, even people who are incarcerated in a maximum security prison can fashion a life that has a shred of hope in it, sometimes a thread of hope in it, and yet they live together and they are a comfort to one another. They build relationships. They worship in their own ways. And am I saying these guys are Boy Scouts? No, that's not what we're saying. Right. What we're saying is death is wrong. It's one of the top 10 commandments. That this is wrong, and it doesn't make us right. And all it does is lower us to the level where we're perpetuating violence in our culture.
That's right. Yeah, it's hard to teach our young people, again, not to kill by killing folks. Again, I believe it is about us, who we want to be. It's not, you can talk all day long about who Steven Nelson is, but I think the bigger question is, who do we want to be? And everybody says, well, Steven Nelson is awful, he's a monster, blah, blah, blah. If this happens on Wednesday night, we're going to be just like him. We are going to be just like him. And I think that should weigh on our hearts, it should weigh on our souls.
Pastor, what do you say to the family? What do you say to the church that disagrees with you and say you're not speaking for them?
Sure. And the bottom line is I'm not speaking for them. But the only thing I can do is speak for my faith. And I don't think you can love your community. I don't think you can love your neighbor. I don't think you can represent the message of Jesus and run around saying, we want to kill people. That seems absolutely absurd to me. Now, I don't know if you've seen any of this coverage. I've been very loud. We had a press conference and protest right outside of First Baptist Arlington. I have not been afraid to have those interactions. But, I want to tell the church and I want to tell his family, you're better than this. Jesus is better than this.
Can I ask you in regards to
keep pushing, it's good.
Isn't the answer to that sign himself? Isn't the Christian faith based on his blood sacrifice and his execution?
I'm glad that
that God set that in motion. And that was necessary for the Christian faith, so therefore isn't the answer to your banner himself?
Yeah, and I think that that means it's over.
It is. Amen.
I mean,
I agree. It is
yeah,
over.
I mean, and ultimately, I think that if it's over, then we don't have to keep perpetuating it. If Jesus is the answer, if the sacrifice, the death and resurrection of Jesus is the answer, it's over. We don't have to keep doing it. And so, enough blood's already been shed. We don't have to shed any more blood. What a great theological question.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
You said he was turned out to be suicide, but they thought he did another murder in prison. What's to stop him from continuing to
He's been down there 13 years, and he hadn't killed anybody in 13.
The sun kind of kicked in.
Oh, okay. All good. All right, we're good? Okay. He's been down there 13 years. He hadn't killed anybody in 13 years. That's all I can say. But, I feel like these stories are kind of worn out, to be honest. To sit here and talk about what a changed person he's in. I mean, everybody talks about the poetry and the art. I mean, y'all have heard it all before. But all I know is that someone who is locked up in a maximum security prison for the rest of their life should not be able to get to anybody else. I mean, what we're seeing with these guys down there, I mean, they're locked up 23 and a half hours a day. 30 minutes they go outside and are able to be in a cage, not able to touch anybody. I mean, when's the last time we had a murder on death row in Texas? Doesn't happen often.
When you go to the governor's office
Yep.
and you deliver petitions, you're probably not going to be able to see them. You may be able to see a representative. What's the message?
The state trooper that sits in there.
What's the message that you want as you hand over those petitions? What do you want that to convey?
I mean, I think I want to just say, I think about this as like an evangelical tract. I want people to get saved. I want people to stop killing people. And so, I mean, I want to say, like, stop. You don't have to do this. Follow life. Follow love. You don't have to do this. Everybody good? Philip, you want to say anything? How wonderful it is to hang out with your dad. He's missing school. Y'all want to say anything? You guys want to do anything?
Just thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank y'all. I'll say one more thing, and for y'all and for our audience. We don't have all the answers, and we're not here because we do have all the answers. But we are here because we believe that the answer is the message and teachings of Jesus. I mean, we're pastors. Pastor, priest, same thing, But the question becomes, how are we going to share our faith? I mean, this is evangelism for us. I mean, this is us teaching about who we know Jesus to be, the very Jesus that we've met in our hearts and in our souls. And so when I say, sort of off-putting a little bit or joking a little bit, that these are evangelical tracts, we see these signatures as hope. Hope for the state of Texas. Not just hope for Stephen Nelson, but hope for the state of Texas. Now we're going to go ahead and walk up to the Capitol. I don't know how much of that y'all want to engage us with. You're more than welcome to walk with us. I don't know if these guys want to carry these cameras, but we are going
amazing tools.
Oh, absolutely. We're going up to the governor's ceremonial office. So if you want to walk with us, you can. If you want to meet us up there, you can. If you want to tell us to go to hell, you can.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank y'all very much. Hey, thank you very much. And thanks everybody.
We're going to stay on live
Yeah,
and just mute it.
All right. Well, as you can see, they just completed the press conference there.
I mean, love is the answer. Right. It's here that matters. That's right. See you, Pat.
They just completed the press conference there in Austin, and they'll be walking over to the state capitol.
I also just wanted to
And let's see if we can't mute them.
add something when you were asking. So my name's Allie Sullivan. I work for Death Penalty Action. We work with Jeff. And I also connect with a lot of people on death row. And
Yeah, there we go. So they're going to deliver the petition, 11,000 of your petition signatures to the governor's office there in Austin. So they'll be walking just a couple blocks over to the state capitol, and we're just going to keep this live feed up. And also, I'll tell you, in just under an hour, we'll also be there'll be some live streaming happening from the capitol in Montgomery, Alabama. We'll be delivering tens of thousands of petition signatures to the office of Governor Kay Ivey in Alabama. Thursday night is the scheduled execution of Demetrius Frazier there. We're still holding out hope that Governor Whitmer in Michigan will intervene and order Demetrius Frazier back to Michigan. He is their prisoner first, and she should have that ability. So who knows what's going to happen with that case. But there are two executions this week, one tomorrow night and another one Thursday night. And that's what we're doing. So might be a little bit boring for a bit, but we're going to keep the stream open and watch the procession up to the Texas state capitol in Austin, Texas, and then the delivery to Governor Abbott's office of the more than 11,000 petition signatures gathered by Death Penalty Action and also the Save Stephen Nelson campaign in his webpage. Excuse me, Stephen Nelson. So you can tell why I'm not in Texas this week or Alabama, because I'm desperately trying to breathe. So that's what's happening. Meanwhile, please do go to deathpenaltyaction.org. It's where you can sign petitions for the executions this week, as well as the two executions that are on the 13th, which is next week from Thursday, the 13th in Florida at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and then Texas at 6 p.m. Central Time. So that's what's happening. And as far as we know, those are the only executions scheduled within February, but then more will be scheduled in later months, I'm sure, sadly. So anyway, get back to watching the stream here from Texas.
I mean, what you say?
You know, I didn't say it. I thought about it. the thing is, it's like the lack of recognition of our complicity in a society like ours,
Right.
where what chance did he have as a young person? What support did he have? And then, like, somebody somewhere along the way has to take accountability. Well, that's the thing that kills me too. Is like, I guess that's a bad thing to say in this context, isn't it? But okay, if you have to do it, please don't do it.
Even when I talk to more conservative friends, more sort of fundamentalist friends, they will say things like, "That's not something a church needs to be doing. Like that doesn't help our witness." And I mean, they're not talking about it from a theological perspective as much as a marketing perspective. That it does nothing to help.
If you're just joining us, we just completed, folks in Texas have just completed a press conference at a church nearby the Texas state capitol. And now they're walking over to the ceremony office of, I think the ceremony office. Maybe they'll go to the actual working office, so we'll see what they do. But they're on their way to the office of Governor Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, to deliver more than 11,000 petitions urging a halt to the execution of Stephen Nelson, who's scheduled to be killed there in Texas tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock Central Time. There's an execution in Alabama Thursday evening and 2 executions on the 13th in Florida and Texas at 6 p.m. Eastern and Central Time next week. So we're working on those as well. But what you're seeing is Reverend Jeff Hood and colleague, the pastor at Central Presbyterian Church there in Austin, Texas, and a small entourage of folks as they're walking from Central Presbyterian Church over where they did a press conference. There were at least 3 television stations covering there. So that's good news. The word is being spread, and we'll see. We'll stay tuned and watch as they go, and they'll turn the microphone back on and address us all again once they get to the office of Governor Greg Abbott. So if you're just joining us, my name is Abe Bono. It's a Death Penalty Action. I'm here in Columbus, Ohio, actually. But what we're seeing is Reverend Dr. Jeff Hood and Ali Sullivan is behind the camera, and the pastor from Central Presbyterian Church there in Austin, Texas, where they just did a press conference. And now they're walking into the Texas State Capitol building. They'll go through security and then on up to the second floor where the ceremonial office of Governor Greg Abbott is. And if somebody's in there, they'll be passing on the petitions. If not, they'll probably stuff them under the door, as we've had to do in the past. But that's what's happening, is we're delivering the petitions for Stephen Nelson, urging that he not be executed tomorrow night in Texas. Stephen didn't kill anybody. It's a law of parties case. He's one of 3 people that were involved in a crime, but the only one that's being held accountable. The others are actually free, which is bizarre. Excuse me. The evidence is that Stephen didn't kill anybody, it would seem. So in any case, that's what's happening, and we're bringing these petitions up to Governor Greg Abbott's office. As you can see, they've turned off the camera there while they go through security. So that'll turn back on in a couple of minutes. And I'll just take this opportunity to invite you to go to deathpenaltyaction.org. And right there on the front page of the webpage is links to petitions to each of the upcoming executions. There's 4 this month, the first being tomorrow evening in Texas, Stephen Nelson, and Thursday evening in Alabama. And by the way, in about 35-40 minutes, we'll be going live again from the state capital of Alabama, where we're doing the petition delivery to to Governor Ivey in Alabama. And then next week we'll be similarly operating in Florida and again in Texas, where there's executions on the 13th in those states. And then, this is what we do. Let's try to spotlight on these executions, make sure people have a way to take action to say, don't kill my name, and to work towards ending these executions in all cases, guilty or innocent. Of note, there's issues in all of these cases. And the Equal Justice Initiative, Brian Stevenson's group, just published yesterday a article getting into the details of unfairness and discrepancy that occurred in the trial of Demetrius Frazier, who was being killed in Alabama on Thursday this week. And it's worth a read. There's also 2 op-eds being published today that are urging Governor Whitmer in Michigan to assert her authority as the governor of Michigan to bring Demetrius Frazier back to Michigan, because he is actually Michigan's prisoner first, and they should not have sent him back to Alabama or down to Alabama. Alabama tried him and sent him back to Michigan. And actually, one of the op-eds being published today in the Alabama Reflector is by one of the governor that made the mistake of bringing Demetrius Frazier to Alabama. So anyway, we'll hear more about that in a bit. But they're going to be there in the rotunda there, and they just need to go up the elevators to the 2nd floor where they'll find the governor's office. So let's watch. Okay, Ali, are you ready to unmute? Let us hear what's happening there. So this is Ali Sullivan with Death Penalty Action is there at the state capitol in Texas, and she'll be catching, I guess, the Jeff and others are coming up, and they're just outside the governor's office there in the Texas state capitol.
Office in here. We're just waiting on some people to come up.
Hey, Ali, you keep unmuting. Do you mean to be muted?
I keep muting myself when I'm not talking just because it's so echoey in here.
Okay, well, it's better if you just leave it open because we can hear the ambience. But we're glad you're there, and I'm gonna stop bothering you. Folks, this is Ali Sullivan from Death Penalty Action there at the Texas State Capitol, and just waiting on Jeff Hood and the others to arrive with the petitions for Governor Abbott on the case of Stephen Nelson.
Are they still waiting?
And Ali, if you could make sure that Jeff knows there's a bunch more people have just joined us. We've got at least 60 people watching. So be sure to just act as if it's a new audience and
Sure.
explain what's happening, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Your mic's on. The mic is on. And we have a bunch of new people on, so when we get started, make sure you just reintroduce everything.
Which one we go out? You're checking this thing? But it's good. I mean, they've become friends. So it's
And someday when we have time, I'm curious how we began this.
Is this not Texas? We get all the way up here and it's closed.
Every single time we come here, this office is closed. We can bang on the door. That's what I did last time.
Did they open it?
Do you want to introduce what we're doing here before we start knocking, Jeff?
So thank you once again for everybody joining us. I know we have a few new folks on. Catherine and I.
Hey, has he got a mic he can flip on?
It should be on. Try that. Is that better? Say something.
Can you hear me?
Is that better?
There's a lot of echoes in here.
No, we can barely hear him.
Okay. Move this thing closer, like put it up here if you can.
What do you mean? How much farther can I go?
Like on the side.
This is ridiculous.
Say something. You can't even see it.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
Yes, that's better. That was better.
Okay. So we're here, Catherine Barlow Williams. Catherine Barlow Williams is a pastor of Central Presbyterian Church, which is right in downtown Austin. And we're here basically to say, like, look, this is a situation in which a pastor was killed, and we have a church that's shouting for blood and wanting Stephen to be executed. And so for us, this is a moment to say, these folks don't stand for us. They don't stand for the message of Jesus. The message of Jesus is about love. The message of Jesus is about hope. And there is no love, there is no hope in the death penalty. And so I think that it's important for persons of faith, for us as pastors, priests, to say no. To say absolutely not. This is not who we want to be. This doesn't represent our faith. We have in my hand 11,000 petitions, signatures of people from all over the world who are determined, dedicated for this execution not to happen. And I think that this is, I'm even looking down the list right now at different email addresses. We've got folks from Stanford. We've got, I see, one from Harvard. Other sorts of companies and French addresses, German addresses. I mean, truly people coming from all over the world, all different ways of life. We're saying no. No. And so Catherine and I, our goal is to register our no's. And since the door is locked, since the governor's office remains locked for the people of Texas, for those of us who are opposed to this execution, I'm planning on sliding these petitions under the door.
Have you knocked? Because last time we did that, we had a state trooper come out and meet us.
Have we knocked, Jeff?
Yes.
Yes, we have knocked.
So we hope that this is a moment in which the governor finds a way to have some heart, finds a way to decide that his Christian values actually mean something, and stop this execution. Abe, do you have anything you want to ask?
I just want to say thank you for leading the action today, and you know, there's and maybe yes, invite your colleague to say a few words as well. We'll wind it down.
We're just inviting you to say a few words.
You got anything else?
Oh, hold on. Before you speak, hold this kind of up here, or you can put it on your collar.
I'll just hold it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just like that.
Yeah.
I just think that the locked governor's door is a metaphor for what is happening in our state. The doors to justice and liberty and freedom have been locked while for the privileged few, while the rest of us are working hard out here to work for freedom and equity for everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
So
Well,
now-
thank you, Allie, for your leadership today, and everybody for being there, and everybody for watching. We'll be back actually live in about another 20 minutes from the state capitol in Alabama, where there'll be a petition delivery going on there. So as long as the technology works with the folks down there, then we'll be back up on the same channel that you're watching on now. So, Allie, be safe, and we'll see you all again live tonight, I guess, and certainly again tomorrow for the execution vigil.
Yes, at 11 p.m. we will be live from the Walls Unit in Huntsville, Texas, and then
That's
of course
tonight, right?
Tonight, yes.
11 p.m. Central Time.
11 p.m. Central Time.
All right, so we'll see you tonight, and be safe out there in the wilds of Texas.
Thank you.
Everybody go to Death Penalty Action. Take action on this case, on Demetrius Frazier's case, on the 2 executions that are scheduled in Florida and Texas again next week. And also we have some petitions up for the executions that are scheduled in March and April. So please sign on, spread the word, invite people to action. Thanks for being with us.